Hello guys and welcome to Planet 40k Tyranids. We've got another review for you today from one of the data cards from the Tyranids Index, and this time we're going to be looking at the Hive Guard. At the start of 9th edition I believe it was, Hive Guard were pretty decent and then they slowly sort of fell down the pecking order, but let's see how they fare for 10th edition. Now we're going to be going through their data card and of course we're going to be giving our Planet 40k rating at the end of the video, so stick around for that. But let's get into this data card. So as for their points, there are 100 points for 3, so 200 points for 6. You can only take either 3 or either 6. Now they previously were 55 points each, which is 165 for 3 or 330 for 6. So they've gone down in price a fair chunk, which is a good sign, that's a good thing. Now you did have to, in fact, in 9th edition pay 10 points more for the Impaler Cannon, but we'll talk about all the weapons in a moment. So yeah, you get 3 of them or 6 of them. You're either coming with the Shock Cannon or the Impaler Cannon, and then you're taking the Xenos Claws and Teeth, which is the melee weapon, whatever, right? So, let's flip that card over, and we're going to start on the statistics. So, we have a movement of 6 inches, as it was. Toughness is now 7, that's gone up nicely. It used to be toughness 6. I mean, toughness 6 was already pretty good, but toughness 7 gives it almost the feel of a monster, not quite a monster from 9th edition, I suppose. But yeah, toughness 7 is going to be quite hard to break through, which is definitely a good thing. Armor save of a 3+, wounds 4, that's as it was. Leadership is 8+, which is kind of standard I think for Tyranids. And objective control is 1. So quite low with the objective control there. But let's move down into the weaponry for the Hive Guard. So we're going to start in order of what we've got on screen here. We're going to start with the Impaler Cannon. It's got the heavy keyword, so if you remain stationary, it's a +1 to the hit roll. You've also got the indirect fire keyword attached to this weapon. So you can fire this without actually being able to see, without visibility. But if you do so, it will be a -1 to the hit roll. And also the target will have the benefit of cover. So it's not sort of the best thing, even though you can't be seen, so you can't be shot back, but you're giving your opponent quite a few buffs to their save and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, heavy as well as indirect could potentially just cancel each other out. A +1 to the hit roll for heavy, a -1 to the hit roll for indirect firepower. So you would be hitting on as you were anyway, but you are still giving that cover save. Now it is 36-inch range, which is nice. It only used to be 24-inch range, so you really can just stay back and hide behind obscuring terrain with this thing now. You've got 4 attacks with it as well, 4 shots. We previously only had 3, so an extra shot there as well on top of that. Ballistic skill, however, has gone up to 4, was 3. Now of course we did mention it's got the heavy keyword, so you can go back to a 3+, but if you are firing indirectly as mentioned, it's going to go to a 4+ again. The strength has gone down to 5. It's not great that, it used to be 6. So even toughness 5 infantry models are going to get a 4, you're going to have to throw them on a 4+, which makes that a little bit more tricky to do. And the AP has also gone down, which is kind of standard for this edition. It used to be -2, it's now -1. The damage though is the big sort of problem here, because it used to be damage 2, it's now just damage 1. So that makes this weapon not as good as it used to be. I mean, if it was damage 1, we should, in my opinion, get, double the amount of shots or something like that. We should get more than 4 shots to kind of compensate for that, but we haven't. So the targets of this weaponry aren't the same as they were in 9th edition. Previously you can target Space Marines, for example. Every single wound that goes through, it takes off a Marine. Now you need to get 2 through just to take a Marine model off. So you're either having to do that or you're going against the smaller infantry, the lesser, the not as tough infantry, Gaunts for example. So yeah, you're going to have to kind of change out the target for this weapon. In fact, previously we used to ignore light cover as well. I know like indirect fire gives them cover, but we used to ignore light cover in 9th edition. And we only needed line of sight of the Synapse model, which is probably a buff for us in fact, because we now don't need that. Now if you've got 6 models in the unit, and that's going to be 24 shots, because 6 times 4 is 24, basic maths, you're going to get an average of 16 hits with that, with the heavy keyword, and we're presuming that we're not firing indirectly there. So we're just hitting on 3s. Now you're wounding the correct targets on a 3+, so anything that's toughness 4 or less, you're going to do about 10 to 11 wounds before their armor save has been made, and you're going to possibly remove around 9 Guardians or maybe 2 to 3 Space Marine Intercessors. So that's the kind of thing that this weapon can do. Is it good? I mean, it's okay. It's okay for me. I don't think it's amazing. It's just okay. Now, we have to also take into consideration the fact that we've got one of the options from the Hive adaptation, which is Swarming Instincts, for example. You can get sustained hits 1 against infantry and swarm. Now, you've only got 4 attacks with it, 4 shots, so yeah, getting a 6, you might get a 6. So it's not the biggest deal, I suppose. It's not the biggest deal. But let's move down onto the second weapon, which is the shot cannon. And this is what it is. So it's got the anti-vehicle 2+, which means if you're shooting at a vehicle and you wound on a 2 or more, that instantly becomes a critical wound, which is pretty good because that means you definitely wound. So even if your strength is 7, which we're going to get onto in a moment, and you're going up against toughness 15 as a vehicle, normally you would need a 6 to wound, but it's a 2+. 2 does the job. Now we've lost the assault ability with this weapon, so we can't advance with it and fire, unfortunately. And we've also lost a bit of range. It used to be 36, it's now 24, so it's almost like the ranges have swapped over with these weapons. These weapons require us to get a little bit closer. Now we've only got 2 attacks or 2 shots with this weapon, which is as it was anyway. Just feels a bit low compared to the Impaler Cannon. Ballistic skill is a 3+, so it's slightly better. The strength is 7. It used to only be strength 5. Now I suppose that doesn't really matter too much because you're likely going up against vehicles anyway, and you need a 2+, so it doesn't really matter. But if you are targeting other units, then maybe it will matter. Maybe you'll be wounded on a 3+ against, infantry, for example. AP is -1, it used to be -2, and the damage is still nice, it's still 3. Now we used to have the wound vehicles on a 4+ in 9th edition. We also used to inflict mortal wounds as well on top of that. We don't have that now, but it's now a 2+ to wound, which I prefer. It means we're definitely going to be wounding something. So you've got 6 of these guys, that's going to be 12 shots, 2 apiece. That's going to be 8 hits on average. Vehicles are critically wounded on a 2+, so you're probably going to get 7 through. Then after their armor save, depending on what it is, 3 damage a pop. So you're going to do a decent amount of work on a vehicle, but you're going to have to get it out in the open to do so. And going back to that Hive adaptation ability, we can choose the second one, which is Hyper Aggression for lethal hits. Again, probably not that needed because you're wounded on a 2+ anyway. But if you do get a critical hit, so a roll of a 6 to hit, from those 12 shots, which 2 of them on average will be, you don't need to roll to wound with them. Every little helps, I suppose. Every little helps. So you've got to ask yourself, in terms of these weapons, are they doing enough damage in the game? I don't think they are. I mean, the shot cannon is decent, but you've then got to ask yourself, how many vehicles are in the game? There's not as many as you probably would think. And if you come up against an army with 0 vehicles, then that shot cannon selection is completely redundant. Well, I suppose it's not completely redundant. It's still got a strength 7 -1 AP 3 damage weapon, but you don't have the anti-vehicle 2+ anymore. If you're going up against standard infantry, you're still wounded on a 3+, so it's still decent in some aspects, but I think the whole purpose of these guys is an anti-vehicle unit. That's with the shot cannon anyway. You then come on to the Xenos Claws and Teeth. I don't really want to talk about this, but we'll talk about it anyway because it's what they've got. 3 attacks each, weapon skill 4+, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. Now the fact that they are strength 5 gives it a little bit of a boost, I suppose. And if you've got 6 of them, that's 18 attacks. What's that? 9 hits on average. Strength 5 going up against maybe toughness 4. You're going to do a fair amount of work. You're going to do a fair amount of work with that, but it's not really where they want to be. They want to be firing rather than in engagement range. So let's move over to the ability side of the data card, which is on the right hand side. They've of course got the faction ability of Synapse, although they don't actually have Synapse. They need to get Synapse from a Synapse monster with the Synapse keyword. Sometimes there's a little bit of complications with that. A few people have said they've got Synapse, but no, that's just the faction ability. They still require to be within Synapse range. They've then got the defensive stance as their unique ability. So each time you target this unit with a fire Overwatch stratagem, which is a core rule stratagem, while resolving that stratagem, hits are scored on an unmodified hit roll of a 5+, and you can actually improve that to a 4+ if you're sat on an objective. So 4+ Overwatch if you're on an objective, that's pretty good in a way. I mean, Overwatch is okay in general, but it all depends on... I mean, in fact, let me go back a step. The actual fire Overwatch stratagem. Let me just go through it because there are a few things you may not even know about this. So in your opponent's movement phase or charge phase, just after your enemy unit is set up or an enemy unit ends their normal move, starts or ends their normal move, advanced move, fallback move, or charge move. The target is 1 unit from your army that is within 24 inches of that enemy unit that will be eligible to shoot as if it was your shooting phase. So the target that you can fire at doesn't necessarily have to be a unit that's trying to charge. I mean, it could just be in the movement phase, right? So therefore you could select a vehicle that's just happily sitting there minding its own business and just start to fire at it. And then it's going to be on a 4+, which if you actually go back to the data card, you're hitting on a 4+ anyway. Unless you've got heavy, but then indirect fire. But yeah, they kind of cancel each other out. But this is meant to be Overwatch. It's meant to be more difficult. So you're basically getting a free shot with these guys if you wanted to use this stratagem on them. And if there's a vehicle nearby and you've got the shot cannon, even better. Now, unfortunately, they've lost a few abilities from 9th edition. The first one is the action they used to do, where they used to basically give their objective control 3, which is, I know that wasn't a thing in 9th, but that's basically what it was after doing an action. And also, they used to be able to, what was the other one? Synaptic guidance. If the enemy unit was within visibility of a synapse model, they could ignore any or all of the hit roll or ballistic skill modifiers. Yeah, whatever. I'm not that bored about that, to be honest with you. But that's what they used to have. They've lost those now. They've now got defensive stance, which I think is a better ability anyway, if you are prepared to spend a CP on the Fire Overwatch stratagem. So talking about stratagems, there's another one which we should mention. It kind of comes up in every single video, really. It's rapid regeneration. You can give the unit a 6+ feel no pain save, and if they're within synapse, it'll be a 5+ feel no pain save. So that's something for either your opponent's shoot phase or the fight phase, in fact. And it'll be done on one unit, and that's only one command point. You definitely want to be using that as often as you can, really, because that one is pretty decent. A 5+ feel no pain save, I like it. Let's move into the battlefield role for the Hive Guard then. All depends on your loadout, doesn't it? All depends on your loadout. If you're taking the Impaler Cannons and you can get behind obscuring terrain, you're not going to get targeted because they can't see you, there's no visibility. And the range is handy with 36-inch range and the heavy keyword as well, so that's going to nullify or counteract against that indirect -1 penalty. It's a nice steady removal of infantry models throughout the game. And if you can also sit on your home objective at the same time, even better, right? Because you're kind of doing two things there for one. You're firing at enemy infantry, and you're also sitting on your home objective scoring primaries. Nice. Now, if you do opt for the shot cannon, which I think is the better option here, you're going to be going vehicle hunting. You wound in very easily on a 2+ against vehicles. Now, a full unit of 12 with 12 shots, that's a unit of 6 of them with 12 shots. You expect a fair amount to get past the armor save. Now, it is only 24 inches, so you're going to have to move forward, and you're going to have to head on over to a vehicle, provided there are any. Now, shooting against non-vehicles, I said earlier that it was okay, but it's not. I mean, if you're going up against Space Marine Terminators, for example, you're going to kill one. You're going to kill one with a full unit of 6. You might kill 2 intercessors. It's not really equipped for that. So you want to be playing against vehicles, which is, in my opinion, quite a narrow field of enemy units. Right, so moving on to the pros and cons for the Hive Guard. Starting with the pros, so they're 65 points cheaper than they were in 9th edition for a unit of 3 of them. 65 points is quite a lot. It's quite a lot. They are now toughness 7, which makes them pretty resilient, especially if they're behind obscuring terrain, then you can't even see them anyway. So they're going to have to come in and make a charge and all that stuff. You've got the weapon options of either the Impaler Cannon or the Shock Cannon. You've got a nice bit of option. You get to choose what you want to do. Let's just hope you choose the right one, I suppose. You've got the good range on the Impaler Cannon of 36 inches. And it also can fight indirect, which is, some units have that. It's quite rare. But sometimes it is really nice to have indirect fire. The Shock Cannon is great against vehicles. And you're only wounded on a 2+, which is nice. And you've got that potential 4+ Overwatch if you are on an objective. Otherwise it's a 5+, which is still okay. As for the cons, the Shock Cannon versus non-vehicles is pretty bad. We've just kind of said that in the battlefield role area. And the Shock Cannon has also lost the assault keyword, so moving around with it and then firing, or advancing rather, and firing isn't really a thing now. They're lacking for me personally in the damage department. They don't do as much damage as they may appear to do. Once you've tried them out, you'll probably realise the same thing. They just don't really seem to do the damage that you want them to do. And finally, they just lack index synergy. Apart from the standard, the Zone Thropes, the Venom Thropes, what's the other one called? The Psychophage thing. Apart from the standard ones that can link to virtually anything, there's not really much synergy. I mean, even from the stratagems, you've got the one rapid regeneration stratagem. Most of them relate to the fight phase. These guys are shooting. So let's move over to the Planet 40k rating for the Hive Guard. What do I think? To conclude, I just don't think they're doing as much. Now, they are cheaper. They're 65 points for 3 cheaper. I just don't think they're doing enough. And I would only want to take the Shot Cannon But if you come up against a horde list with no vehicles, what's it going to do? I mean, a lot of my lists, I'm trying to think of what lists. What was my last list? Did I have vehicles in that list? I don't think I did. My last Necrons game, I didn't have a vehicle. If you're going up against Tyranids in the mirror match, no vehicles. I mean, okay, obviously it works in the other way, going up against Astra Militarum, for example. You've got loads of vehicles, so sometimes you get really lucky. Bang, the whole army's full of vehicles. Great. Then they'll be really good. But a lot of the time, you're going to find they're not. There's not enough vehicles for you to, warrant bringing these guys in. So for the Planet 40k rating today, I'm going quite low with this, unfortunately. I'm going to go with a Planet 40k rating of 2-star. So guys, that is the full review for the Hive Guard. Let me know yours down in the comments below. What would you give them out of 5? And also on the screen now, it should say what you should be watching next. And also remember to like and subscribe on your exits. Thank you all guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.